Good morning to everybody who is new. Welcome to everybody who is not. Welcome back. I'm Leah and this is Growing Up in the Garden. So in today's video, what we're going to go over is the next step of what I've done to continue garden planning. We're going to talk about a couple different things. I'm going to list off some of the things that I had to think about as I was creating my garden plan for this year. So let's just jump right in. I first made my list of hopefuls, so just jotted down a list on a piece of paper of all of the different things that I wanted to grow. And from that, I filled in just a rough sketch of my garden. So my garden is roughly a rectangle, so I drew in where my fence was, I drew in where the walking section was, and any trellising that I had. And then I just used my list of hopefuls and put them just down as I went through the rest of the requirements in my list. Things like, were they a heavy soil feeder, a light, a medium? So do they need more nutrients versus less nutrients? Are they susceptible to the same diseases or pests as the thing beside them? Because if you do get a pest that likes them, it will then grow rampant and go through your whole section there. You don't want that. Different things like sun requirements, water requirements, different soil types that are needed. For example, like carrots. In the carrot section, I'm going to be going through with just like a sieve. It's just like wide mesh sieve, and just take out any rocks, any big debris that's going to impede the growing of the carrots into that really nice straight taproot, so that they don't fork and like have little interesting looking carrots. You want to, or I wanted to think of things like companion planting for proactive pest control. So things that I could use like marigolds, chrysanthemums, sage, different things like that, or interplanting with say onions and garlic to prevent pests like rabbits and that kind of thing. You want to think of ahead of time. So once you have thought of all of these things, the sun, the soil, the water, the structure, you can add that to your garden layout, as I have here. Main garden. I'll give you a close-up of this in a moment. That is the backyard side garden. And here we go. I did do a small sketch of my smaller gardens. I've got a full sun garden, I've got a shade garden, and I've got a couple that are half and half, so part shade. So I did those up also. Now I am starting a lot of new flowers and herbs this year, and things of that sort. Medicinal herbs, edible flowers, ornamental items, cutting flowers, pollinator flowers, everything like that. And I'm really excited to get those going, but a lot of those are going to be started from seed. And just adjust you here. And I really like starting things from seed, mainly because, one, it's a more cost-effective option for me, and because in the depths of winter, or the 2 or 3 foot of snow that we currently have outside, it's always nice to have a little bit of greenery to take care of. So once you have your general layout of where you want your list of hopefuls, you then need to jump right in and start your seeds if that is what you're doing. And in my case, it is. So what I did this year that's different from the years prior is I actually went through and I just looked at the back of my seed packages for the information that tells me how many weeks ahead I should start my seeds so that they are ready for transplant outside. So I went through my whole seeds and I wrote down anything that I was planting this year. I wrote down in a list of when I'll be planting it roughly. So 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, and anywhere 12 and above. The 12 and above is what I've planted here. Excuse me. So my allium and my pansies. Now I did have echinacea down for my 10 to 8 week seed starting, but I did them yesterday, 2 days ago, because I really want a robust plant to plant out. And I'm going to have echinacea in a couple different areas. I do have some already started out there somewhere under the snow in one of the flower beds, but I want more, because when I go to use my echinacea, you use mainly the root, but what you do is you harvest the section, so you're removing it from the plant, which is why I want like a really good established area, so that I'm not just pulling up what I've just planted. Oh, and I wanted to show you something. This little guy here looks a little crazy. I seed started him last year in this cup, and he was an extra. I didn't have anywhere for him. I had already given all his brothers and sisters away to the neighbors, and so he was left. And it's a cayenne pepper. I keep saying he, it, the, she. It's a cayenne pepper, and it has been giving me peppers all this whole season, this whole winter season. There's one here, if you can see it, right there, and I've got 2 flowers up here. I've got 4 ripe, dried cayenne peppers up on my cupboard. I will show you those in a little bit. Just all from what it's decided to produce over the winter. I didn't plan on keeping it inside. It just happened that way. It was a leftover, and I didn't want to see it freeze, and I didn't want to toss it in the compost. So I brought it inside, and it's, living its little life. Some things that I am starting to plant. This weekend I started just a few of my very early things that generally take longer to germinate. For example, these are allium, and that's a flower, and it has a very long stem, and they come out like a big hoof. Gorgeous. These are purple, and I actually got these in a seed swap with one of my neighbors. Now, normally allium come in, or you can get them in a bulb from the store. My neighbor has saved these seeds and shared them with me. So we are starting them from seed. So they're going to take longer to germinate. They're going to take longer to bulb up. And if we'd like for them to bloom this year, which I would, hopefully, then we've got to start them early. So that's what I've done here. So So something else that I wanted to share with you guys today is my first time trying to grow sweet potatoes or yams. I know they're called a couple different things depending on where you live. And so I've been on the YouTube and I've been watching a couple videos in regards to how to start these slips for sweet potatoes. And I do know that this might be a little bit difficult to grow in my area because they need a long season to grow. And my season is very short growing season, about this year about 150 days between our last frost and our first frost date. So I'm definitely going to want to get some really good hardy slips going and have them ready to go into the grounds as soon as the conditions are right for them. So I've got my container. It's got a couple small holes in it. I'm gonna fill it halfway full of potting soil. Take my sweet potatoes and then I'm just gonna wiggle them into the soil about halfway, make sure that my soil is moist, and apparently they will just start to grow. And that's fantastic. I love things that don't take a lot of effort when there's so many other things to put effort into. So give me a sec, let me go get some soil. Okay, I'm back. So I went and grabbed actually a different container. This one's a little bit taller. I think it'll work just a bit better. So I just take your sweet potato, sink it about halfway down, and again with the other one. Okay, and then just keep it moist, keep it in a nice area with some sun, and 3 weeks apparently they should start sprouting some slips. And then you take your slips, you snip them off, and you root them in just like a glass of water. Roots don't take long to form, so a week or so you should be having some well-rooted sweet potato slips ready to go into another small pot and start hardening them off once it's almost time to take them out. Put them in the garden and then just enjoy your sweet potato harvest, hopefully. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. Growing up in the garden.